when I go. And that's worth something, but is it worth twice a month at like, $25 a pop? Not really,
Yeah, exactly. Finding better ways. And I think the virtual kind of does help make people very efficient. You're not hanging out after the meeting, talking and talking and talking.
We save time driving.
But I do find that most of the connections and most of the business that I do is in that 10 to 15 minutes before and after the live meeting. So with virtual meetings, I don't get that. So I pretty much cut out all virtual meetings because it's just a big suck of time.
Yeah, you're better off. I call them 10-minute coffee calls. Like, let's jump on a 10-minute coffee call. I'll have coffee, you have coffee. We'll set the timer.
Yeah, much better. Much, much better. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that finally did to me when I was at a meeting. It took 40 minutes to introduce everybody. I'm like, oh my God. Like,
yes.
I've run out of patience for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Yeah.
So right now we're going to be investing basically in all three of these, right? We're all going to get to know each other. We're creating relationships. You're investing your time to, as Evelyn said, bring more money to your world. So right now money is going to be the priority for this hour and a half. Okay. This is part of why I am so passionate. I think this is a crazy statistic, but women spend 80% of the world's wealth, and we only make 10% of it.
Hang on one sec. Closing off for a minute. I'm on a Zoom call. Hello. Okay. Yeah, when you have 21-year-olds, this is when they get up.
Women spend 80% of the world's wealth. So we have some power in the transactions, but imagine the power we could have if we up that 10% of it. And this is the world's wealth globally, what's happening. That's why I'm so passionate reaching women starting out of all ages, because this needs to change in my book. We need to get better at the game. So when I talk about the money game, there is the wealth game and the status game. So the status game, think of it like the scarcity mode with money. Okay, we're playing off of each other. So let's say, Chris, you get a new customer that's going to pay you $5,000. I'm like, shucks, that could have been my $5,000. Instead of looking at, wow, Chris just earned that $5,000, I could do it too. It's a very competitive game, right? You see your friend get the big house, now you want the big house. You see your friend go on a nice vacation, you're like, I need to go on that nice vacation. It's also looking at your friend gets a raise, a $30,000 raise. You're like, well, you kind of are thinking that's $30,000 less out there for me, right? And there's plenty of money for everyone to make a ton of money. There's an abundance of money. So unfortunately, our society's kind of trained us that way. You think of the marketing, the commercials we see, social media, everyone keeps saying is horrible with that. Versus the wealth game, which says, imagine this, so everyone that I work with, they start to earn more money. They save more money. I earn more money, which allows me to help even more women around me. We're all being raised together. That is the right way to play it. There's an abundance of money. And this is why I love my community programs, because you can see if the same money system's working for Chris, it's going to work for you, Evelyn. Right? You can see there's nothing different. If she is implementing it, getting results, I can do the same and get results. And we can all get raised together. We can all start earning more than 10% of the world's wealth together. Okay. Now I want you to think back to your first memory of money. And I'm going to give you an example of this and how it plays into the wealth versus status game. I want you to think about your first memory of money. What was it? What were the emotions around it? I was doing kind of just like a round table with a bunch of millennial women. And I brought this concept up of wealth versus status. And I asked them what was their first memory of money. And the one girl said a lemonade stand. She said, my friends and I, we had a lemonade stand. And I asked her, what was about that memory that really stood out to you? She goes, well, we made more money than the boys. The boys had a lemonade stand on the other side of the street, and they were competing, and they raised more money than the boys. I said, you played right into the status game. What if you joined forces? You probably could have made even more money together had a bigger impact, networked and marketed it even more if you set up Lemonade Stand together. That would have been the wealth side of it. My first memory of money is I would count my coins and my dollars in this little tin that I kept in my closet in my room, and I would run into my room, lock my door, count my dollars, make it look all pretty and neat. And whenever I got in trouble, with my parents, I would run into my door, have my tantrum, lock the door, and they would bang on it and say, "Jessica Claire, if you don't open this door right now, we're taking away all your money." And right there, the scarcity mindset, right? It's like, oh, crap, money can be taken away from me. I don't want that to ever happen to me. If you think about that moment, one money personality will look at it and say, well, I'm going to spend my money before anybody can take it from me, because money can be taken from me like that. So I'm going to spend it before I have it. And you can probably think of people who are like this. Another money personality will look at that same moment and think, I'm going to hoard my money in so many places, in so many bank accounts, I'm on my mattress, so that it's not taken from me. Or maybe they'll get a piece of it, but they're not going to get all of it. So you kind of start to see how your first memory of money can shape a lot of decisions that you've made around money. Does anybody have their first memory?
I don't know if it's the first, but I'll say the most shocking money memory I have was from my dad, who's a retired financial advisor. And I was afraid to ask him for something I wanted because my mom's mindset was so different. Hers was like penny pinching and shopping for the best and only buy the clearance and da-da-da. And so she was very tight with money. And my dad shocked me because he said, KJ, if that's what you need, we'll get it for you. I can always go make more money. So that was like somebody yanked the carpet of belief out from under my feet because I thought you had to work really hard for money and because it was hard to get. Does that make any sense? It was like a total contradiction.
Yes. It was kind of, my mom and I, we would go shopping and it was our fun bonding moment. But then we would get home and we'd have to leave the bags in the trunk because she didn't want my dad to see if he would get mad. So it was constant, okay, shopping, spending money is good. No, shopping and spending money is bad.
Right.
And to this day, I still kind of have that.
Right. That contradiction was very confusing to me.
Yes.
Yeah. And I did have a lot of chores for a little tiny allowance. A lot.
That's where it all comes
that
from, right?
reinforced money's hard to come by.
I say, we're going to get into that, knowing your value.
Yeah. Well, I'm over that now, but as a child, I was very impressionable.
Yeah. No, it is true because your parents are all you know usually about money.
Right.
You're taking everything in from them. Right. What about you, Evelyn?
Right. So I hadn't really thought about it until you put this up there. And what popped into my head, it's not going to be a good memory, but when I was 6, my father passed away. So we had to move because we couldn't afford the house anymore. So we moved to a rental, which was fine because I was sick. So I didn't really know what was going on. But my mother always made it more of an adventure. Like, okay, how are we going to do this? Like, it wasn't a bad thing.
Yes.
It was more of how can we be creative around money, which
that
has probably followed me throughout life.
I feel like you probably put a positive spin on everything.
Right. So I get that from my mother.
I love that.
I never felt it was a bad thing, but it was just made me be more creative. Like I didn't have like what Chris's dad said, oh, we can always make more money. Like, well, yeah, no, that's not really an option because my mom was then going to work. So there was a fixed income, and we were little, so we couldn't do anything. But interestingly enough, it always made me like think outside the box of like, okay, well, we need this. How will we get this?
Innovative. Very cool. That's true. I remember one of my good friends, she single mother to 4 kids, and she worked. And she told me, whenever you have time with the kids, you make it a really big deal. Kind of like you have like going to that, it's an adventure. It's not just moving, it's an adventure. She's like, whenever you go to the park, it's not just going to the park. It's a picnic at the park, or it's a special mommy date at the park.
Right.
You make it something bigger than it is, so when they appreciate it more.
Mhm.
And two, you make it just special for them.
Mhm.
Make your time together special, and you can do the same thing like you said with money. All right, cool. So money can buy you time or stuff.
Mhm.
And starting out for me, I was like, I love stuff. I love nice clothes. I like nice cars. I want a nice house. Blah blah blah. Fast forward to having my daughter at work. I'm like, wow, I want my time. I want my time
Mhm.
out of the operations of my business so that I can do more things like
Mhm.
this, connect with more women one on one, and also more time at home. Not time when I'm exhausted and stressed and work took the best out of me. I want good quality time at
Mhm.
home.
Mhm.
And I know everybody at some point in their life comes up to where they've had enough stuff. We bought enough stuff. Now I want my time back. I see with women coming up to retirement, they're
Mhm.
always like, how am I going to know? Like, you're going to know when you've made enough money, you've had enough. Now you want your time to enjoy. Can you guys think of a moment when all of a sudden it switched for you or is switching?
Definitely launching my own company. I realized the need to buy more time than stuff. And getting to know the women of Big in particular, the quality networking that I've done has shown me I don't have to be the master of all things. I can have a trusted circle that I turn to get, the books fixed and, the website done so that I can spend my time making money and doing what I'm serving with my gifts.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
Years ago,
that's big.
when my three boys were younger, my husband was working a corporate job and he was traveling a lot. And I finally came to the point, like, this is not working anymore. So we decided together, he quit, and we both started our own businesses at the same time, specifically so we could be around our kids more. So now the kids are older and it's really paid off because I've always said, it's like our children are so sick of seeing us. It's like they never feel like we were not there every minute of every day for anything they possibly needed. I mean, we had, it balanced off the other way. We didn't have money to do like giant trips and stuff like that, but still I wouldn't have changed the way we did it.
There you go. Exactly. And I know I'm thinking about, so Jessica, who's going to watch the recording of this, she's a virtual assistant. And then Leah, she's young single mom, but talking about in her career, taking on less of a headache of a job, I guess you could say, less responsibilities, less
A
stressful.
time sucking job.
Exactly. So she can be more and more with her daughter, and it's not quite retirement, but kind of gearing up for that. So Jessica saves people time, like you said, Chris, right? Having your circle of people that's going to help you execute things, the operational side. Evelyn, you create time with what you do for women, for moms at home. Think about it. I'm just thinking how this relates
Right.
even to your guys' businesses. And then Chris, you bring time back, right? You bring memories back.
You just gave me chills.
So everyone here is,
Yeah.
whether they're doing this with their business, they're thinking about it with their career, or they give people back time or memories
Yep.
and stuff.
Yep.
Very cool.
Very.
Okay, so what is a trade-off with money? Your life energy. I just read a book, Your Money or Your Life. Fantastic book, and it talks about basically every dollar you spend is life energy that you need to work for. So when my mom complains that my dad has 4 more client calls, I'm like, well, that was just your trip to Costco, right? One less trip to Costco means less client calls. Exactly what your dad was saying, Chris, right? We can always earn more money, but then that's life energy that's being taken from family or other things. So I always think about that, right? I was at Home Goods yesterday because I have a new office. I'm trying to slowly fill it out. I'm like, okay, what do I need to sell to make this back up?
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth it? And putting a pause, and we're going to talk about this a lot, putting a pause when we make a purchase, an investment, or a decision to think it through. What are the repercussions of this? And doing the money math that we're going to get into as well. But think about this. I know in the book, Your Money, Your Life, they talk, most people, especially in the corporate world, they're working for a dying. They're not working for a living because there's nothing left at the end of the day. They're basically working to pay their bills, go home, go to sleep, get up and work. Pay their bills. They're kind of on this hamster wheel. So they're really, how much life energy are you trading before it? Okay. Another great way, because I always talk about tracking your money, also tracking your time. Because where you spend your time is where you're going to be spending your money. So Toggl is an amazing tool, TOGGL.com. There's no E at the end, though you think there would be one. And you can set up projects, whether it's answering emails, quoting people, fixing the website, marketing, and you can track how much time you're spending on things and seeing, like you said, Evelyn, what's my return on my investment? Or keeping yourself in check. It's also very good if you're going to hire an assistant, because then you can see how much time do you spend on it.
Yep.
Well, this is how much time I expect them to spend on it. You don't want them spending all their hours you're paying them to create pretty canvas if that's not a priority to you. So being efficient with where they're spending their time so that you're paying them for what you actually want them to get done. It's good to keep yourself on track. It's also good, thinking of Leah for her job, like how much time does she spend on things at her job that she doesn't want to do or like to do? Then when another opportunity comes up, you can see, okay, well, I spend 80% of my day doing stuff I hate. I spend 20% doing stuff I love. How do I find a job doing more of what I love and less of what I hate? In any job, there's going to be stuff that you don't love to do. But if it's the majority of your day, you're going to wake up more and more resentful each time. Okay, so now we're going to go into our money personalities here. Money personality type 1, if you can't tell, she's in the mall shopping, is Spendthrift Sally. So Spendthrift Sally loves to spend money, obviously. Does not think about the consequences. There's always a justification. Impulsive, emotional buying. This was me when I hated my job. Before I made a lot of changes, the mall was on my way home. I would be exhausted from work. I'd be frustrated. I had a lot of ideas that got shut down right away. Or I would do all this work for the ideas to never be used. So I would go and I would spend money. And I would feel good in the moment. And then I would get home and realize there's nowhere to fit them because I already had enough stuff, right? Enough stupid stuff. And then I would feel bad about myself. So buyer's remorse. It's in. Or the flip-flopping. I deserve this. I don't deserve this. Constantly going back and forth.
This is exactly parallel to eating.
Yes, a lot, right? Because eating, our health
and
our wealth,
eating,
are both very emotional,
yes,
and impulsive.
Yeah. And the way we beat up on ourselves by our bad habits, making the problem even worse. Kind of this self-defeating cycle.
You're like, I already spent this amount of money. Another
right.
100, another extra 100.
Right. What's another donut?
They've already had 6, so what's 7?
Might as well just finish the box. No, sorry.
See, I can picture that with food, but I can't picture that with money at all.
Yeah, you're not a spendthrift.
Like that's just alien. I wish I could figure that with food.
What I have noticed
to me
is usually there's something in your life that you kind of make it a priority that you're fine spending money on. Maybe it's kids, maybe it's your business, maybe it's trips. Like there's something that you value that you're okay spending more than you would in other areas of your life. Maybe it's technology, all those things. Or it's a dollar amount. I'm fine spending $5 every day at Starbucks. This isn't me. I actually just drink hot tea at home. I never go out I'm like, I can make the same exact tea at home. But it's like $5 amount. Or if it's under $50, you're fine spending it. Or if you have cash, which most people don't have cash anymore, but like, oh, it's cash. It's like fun money. It's monopoly money. So sometimes there's something in your life you're okay spending it on, or it's a dollar amount. You know, a lot of little purchases. But if I go over $200, then I'm going to start to get queasy. Then I'm going to get nervous. And then I give the example of Diane. So Diane is a client. She came to me about a year after her divorce, and the divorce she did not want. She was completely blindsided by it, and she had a lot of anger and resentment. So she spent the year after her divorce, the year before she met me, going on really nice trips, getting a new car, doing all these things. And she got herself into a lot of credit card debt. But to her, she always justified it. I deserve this. He put me through hell. I deserve this. And I remember sitting with her and we were going through her expenses, and she's in tears because she knows she can't afford the hole that she's gotten herself into. And she kept saying to me, I need to keep the house. The house is way too big for her. Her kids were they're in college. They were graduating college and they weren't moving back home. Huge house. She's like, but it's stability. I need this stability. And I looked at her, I'm like, what kind of stability do you have when you can't even afford the house and you're in tears every month? To me, that's not stability in my life. And I said to Diane, I want you to think before you make any decision, whether it's money or not, but is this going to get me closer or farther from financial stability? And that put it all in perspective. Like, am I moving closer or farther from my goals? And just having that one question to put everything in perspective for her. It made sense to her. And that's what I say for any spendthrifts that are watching is, and we're going to talk about these, putting a pause before you make a decision. Okay? It really comes down to being clear on what are your money values. Why is money important to you? And I want you both, and people who are watching the recording, write down, why is money important to you? Is money freedom? Is it independence? Sometimes it's love, being able to give your family everything or what's important. Sometimes it's success. I think a lot of people starting out, they're like, I'm going to earn 6 figures. I'm going to earn $1 million, because that's what their view of success is. That's their measuring stick. And then they see what it takes to earn that amount of money. It starts to wane a little bit. Maybe money is security. It's stability, freedom. Sometimes people think money is shameful or you feel greedy.
Share.
Why money is important to you?
It's a tool to me. I know that's not an emotional word, but a tool can be misused or it can be used very constructively. So I guess I don't have an emotional definition of it. I have like a tangible.
What is it building? So if it's a tool,
yeah, exactly. It can build a loving home. It can build generosity. It can build a future. It can build cities. It can build dreams. It can build stages and symphonies. Or it can, tear down and cause separation.
What about you, Evelyn?
For me, it's definitely security.
Security. Being able to put the roof over your head, being able to pay the bills.
Right, less worries.
Able to go on vacation and know you're going to be, right. And to enjoy the vacation.
Right, less worries equals more time in my world.
There you go. Good. Now I want you, and we've done this last week in the challenge, but write down your top 3 goals. Top 3 goals. These don't have to be 90-day ones. These could be, whether it's to bring your business to a next level, whether it's to be, Leah's about to buy a house, buy that dream house. What are your top 3 goals?
That shouldn't be a hard question, and yet it is.
Especially when you have to narrow it down to 3.
Are we sharing? Or I'm so sorry. I got interrupted, as you could see.
No, just writing down your top 3 goals.
Okay, thank you.
You're good.
Does it count if they're goals but you need somebody else to do something?
No, write them
you
down.
don't really have control over it.
Oh, those are the hardest goals. That was this morning. I'm like, I have the kids yet I have to work, and I couldn't control what my kids were doing. I couldn't control the doctor. I couldn't control construction on Main Street. But yeah, still write them down. And then what we do when people come into our community, and Chris, we've done this, is then we start to put a savings account or an investment account for each goal, and you drip money into them every time you get paid. So that's part of the Stable Money Saver.
So I have a question about that,
Mm-hmm.
because after last week's challenge that we were doing, I'm trying to do that. And like trying to set up a new bank account is like pulling teeth.
They don't make it.
It's like so difficult.
Yes.
So it's like you get so, like you go into it all gun ho, like, okay, yep, I'm going to do this. Da, 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 and then you're like, okay, other people again are stopping you from doing what you're doing. In this case, the bank. Like I sent an email to my bank yesterday going, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do that. How do I do this? Crickets.
What bank is it?
Carney.
Okay. I don't know. I know I should know more for the different banks, but I know PNC, I have it for personal and on the working side, and it was fine, but I have heard some banks are very difficult to set it up.
They just don't answer.
Yeah, they're
So
low
it's
on
like,
staff, and more banks are automated
Yeah.
right.
rather than
So-
actually human
Hard to, yeah.
attended.
Yeah. So it's just
So,
the difference between
yeah.
when you say, yes, this is a great idea, or the different buckets or whatever you want to call it. Like, let me set up these vehicles to do this. And then you get like, how do you keep going past
You get-
that? You know?
I know, you get a roadblock.
Yeah.
Another
Much like
roadblock.
your construction. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the construction. I'm trying to build this and you're not.
Exactly. You're not helping. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can talk about that too, Evelyn, if you want to do the 15-minute follow-up call.
Yeah. I mean, I can work through it. It's fine. It's just, I know what I have to do. It's just like, why aren't you making this easy, people?
They
You know?
should make it much easier.
I'm trying to
much
give you
lower
guys
hanging
money.
fruit.
Exactly.
Exactly.
All right, cool.
So then you go to like the Venmo thing or the PayPal thing. It's like, okay, how do I get from this account? Like the money goes into this account. How do I get it? It's like, gets so complicated. It's such a
I like
simple
Zelle.
concept.
Bank to bank, I like Zelle.
Yeah. All right. Two more things for this is the superposition state. So Dr. Caroline Leaf, she's a neurologist, neuroscientist, fabulous woman. She's actually reversing the effects of Alzheimer's. So pretty credible woman. And she talks about the superposition state. And you think of how many things, we actually don't think about it because it's so second natural. So many things that we do with money is second nature, right? Let's say I give you $1. What are you going to do? You're going to put it in your wallet. You're not even think twice. It's just the flow of it. You go to the store, you pull out your credit card. That's just what you do. It's putting a pause in between that second nature, that flow, that sequence, to think things through. Basically what I told Diane, right? Okay, is this going to get you closer or farther from financial stability, closer or farther from your goals? So putting a pause in between our second nature habits that we just do. And I know so many people that say it takes, 21 days to form a new habit. Dr. Caroline Leaf says it actually takes 63 days. It takes 3 sequences of the 21 days for them to become second nature and habits. So the fulfillment factor, I give women questions. So if I have people who have a lot of credit card debt, yet they make good money, yet they're still in debt. And being retired in debt is one of the worst things. It's very hard to retire if you have a lot of debt. So I have them keep a checklist, and sometimes they wrap their credit card with it. Sometimes they just keep it in their wallet, but it has 4 questions on it. Do I need this item? Did I need it yesterday? Right? Your light bulb went out and you needed it yesterday. Then, okay, go ahead and buy it. Will this get me closer or farther from my goals? What else could I be doing with this money? And for the business owners, thinking of when you're about to spend money to invest in your business, is this a short-term thing? Is this a long-term thing? And knowing what does your business need right now? Are you pretty busy now, so you want to plant long-term seeds, invest long-term? Or do you need some business right now because nothing's coming in the door? So understanding what does your business need, where do you need to be investing the money, short-term, long-term, what kind of project, what kind of seeds do you need to plant? And then for like Leah, who works for a company, you're thinking about, wait, she's about to buy a house. So this is going to be closer to my goal of having a real home for her and her daughter to live in. Okay, that helps that need. But is this also going to sabotage or put my retirement in jeopardy or anything else in jeopardy? So looking at it holistically, any type of decision. Okay. So money type 2 is cheap chip, pinching pennies. My friends, like, you can call me Frugal Frank. I don't want to be called cheap chip. Call me Frugal Frank. Okay, so Frugal Frank, cheap chip, there's never going to be enough money. You feel guilty when you spend money. It can make you physically nauseous or just makes you really nervous. You're waking up, panicking. A lot of times too, when we don't have a plan or a money system when we get paid, we will feel guilty, or we're constantly doing a mental accounting. I have this bill coming up, I have to pay off this, I have to owe my assistant this amount of money, and you're constantly trying to see how much cash do you need in your bank account to pay all these bills. I have my mortgage coming up, my utility, oh, my property taxes are this month, they're quarterly, but they're this month. And you're constantly making sure that you have enough money in your bank account, and that gets exhausting. Instead of what we're talking about right now, setting up different accounts to fund those things. Or a great step is just to separate miscellaneous from fixed money. So in your cash flow account, you can break it into two. One's for fixed expenses that covers your basic overhead, your bills, your rent, your mortgage, anything like that. And then you know what's left to play around with, to go shopping, to buy your kids new clothes, to go out to eat, for a trip. And it also really helps tracking your money, because the monthly stuff, they're pretty set. You don't really need to track them as much. So you weed those out. You know, you just kind of put those down for the year. And then you have the miscellaneous. And it also helps with the mental accounting, knowing what are those one-ups that you have that come out. Spending money makes you anxious and stressed. You don't feel good enough. It's like, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this. So you don't buy. You will research and research and research all cost options, right? My aunt, she'll spend 10 weekends trying to find the best washing machine. It's like, it's not really the best use of your time unless you really, really do enjoy going to every Homes and Lowe's, Home Depot and Lowe's to find the best one.
That's, you're describing exactly my husband. This weekend we went out looking for a van for the toy tamer because we need a bigger van. And so he's been looking at used vans and stuff. And he had this funny look on his face. And I'm like, why do you have this funny look? Because we're going used car shopping. I hate that. I'm thinking, then why are we doing this? I said, let's look at this. If you're going to pay this amount, $20,000 for a van or $30,000 for a brand new van, and we're going to finance it anyway, $10,000 isn't going to make a big bunch of difference, but it's going to make a big difference in how you're looking at yourself in this van, as well as the repair bills we're going to have. So just let's not do this. Let's go look and then just go buy something new. He's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, just save so much time.
Yes. And you also don't, like, they tend not to take on a lot of risks.
Mm-hmm.
Their business, with their money, with their investments in life, right? They'd rather not risk getting the bigger house. You know, we'll just stay. This is comfortable. You hear that a lot, right? I'm comfortable. This is what I like. I have one woman, and she's about to retire soon, and she has a condo at the beach, and she has another house. She's like, do I sell both and do I get a nicer house at the beach? She's like, well, I'm comfortable here. She's constantly flip-flopping. Every day's a new day for her. Or do I get the bigger house? I'm comfortable here. Do I take on the risk of the bigger house? Going back and forth with it. So there's very more scarcity mindset with Cheap Chip. Now, I will say, there's not one personality that's the best one to be. We kind of need a little bit of each. Like, sometimes, like you said, Evelyn, you just need to know when you should go out and buy it. But for spendthrift Sally, it's also good to keep everything in perspective and knowing what your priorities are, what your values are. Okay, so for Cheap Chip, what are the solutions? understanding where the limiting beliefs come from. What is holding you back from making the purchases? And it really comes down to feeling, we're talking about, right, Evelyn? Feeling secure with your money, feeling secure enough to spend. So one example in my Stable Money Saver on the personal side is we have a 1-year bucket. So you drip into it each time you get paid, and you have to use that money in 1 year to enjoy it. Whether it's a trip, something for your house, a car, you know, a shopping spree, I don't know, whatever it is you're going to enjoy. And this is what I found. It really helps the Sallys because it's 1 year. It's close enough time frame. It's not like, okay, we can't spend your money for 5 years. It's 1 year. It gets them in the habit of saving. It gets them working towards something, but it's still within a year that they can enjoy it. It gives the cheap chips permission to spend because we're saving in so many other areas. And that helps them feel secure. So now I want you to write down what is 1 hour of your time worth. And it's probably going to be low. It's always lower than we think. But I want you to write down what is 1 hour of your time worth.
I know exactly because I know what I charge my customers for each hour. And this is exactly the conversation I had with my husband. I was like, if we're paying $200 for a used car a month or $300 for a new or $400 for new, it's $200 more a month. How can you earn $200 more a month? That's nothing.
There you go. So write it down because we're going to go back to it as well. But you did this exact exercise, which is awesome.
I must have known it was coming or something.
Yeah. And for cheap trips, it really is having a spending plan that complements the savings plan. Knowing when to invest the money into your business or into your house, into the future. I have one client and she's been looking to renovate her kitchen for 10 years. And now she's coming to the point where, okay, do I renovate or do I just sell? Because she's going to sell in a few years. I'm like, well, you're going to have to lower your house price by the amount, or you spend the money now and you enjoy it until you sell. But each year she waits, it's going to be harder to justify it. But sometimes you do need to put money into your house for it to keep its value. No matter what you paid for it, it's not just going to keep going up. You need to keep maintaining it and putting money into it for you to get a return on it. Okay, so knowing when you should just bite the bullet and spend the money. And like I said, we have that fun account to allow you to spend because you know you're saving in so many different ways, and we've done the money math, so we know you're saving plenty for the future. And it's something that you can get excited about with your spouse or with your children. You know, you can bring them into the conversation too. How are we going to enjoy this money in a year? All right, money type 3. Over generous Olivia. This is my number one money type. I think a lot of women are this one in some way just because we're such caretakers. But we're very generous people. And it could be we're generous with our time. We're always like, you always know the friend, I can always count on her. She will drop everything to come to my aid. Or your parent or somebody, they're generous with their time, their relationships, right? They're always a connector and they want to introduce everybody, or with their money. Okay. As a business owner, you can be generous with your time by giving a lot of free advice, networking a lot, giving a lot of referrals, or undercharging. Right? It was when I started out, I wanted to help everybody. And I was like, no one's valuing it because it's free. And understanding, why are we so generous? Why is it hard to say no? You know, is it because you want to help everyone? Do you want to please everyone? Do you want to look a certain way? Do you have a low self-worth? I think of my mom with this one. My grandmother, she was verbally abusive to her. She called her fat, dumb, and ugly, which my mom is none of those things at all. And to this day, she's a people pleaser. She will never say no to people. She's the president of the garden club in her town, and she does everything because everyone knows, right? She's not going to say no. So she takes on too much. She's so stressed by this garden club. I'm like, Mom, you need to retire from the garden club. This is ridiculous. But she's still looking for that approval from her mom, right? She wants to please everyone. She wants to help. She wants to look a certain way. She wants people to feel a certain way around her. And it really comes down from her being insecure because of what her mother told her growing up. And as we said, as children, we're very impressionable.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding your triggers. So I always give the example of Ann Didi. Ann Didi, she's a client, and she's a single woman, no kids, but she had this belief that because she earned more than everyone else in her family, she always had to help them out. So whenever something happened, they would call up Aunt Didi, we need money, and she'd send the money. But in the meantime, Aunt Didi, her house needed repairs. She needed a new car. She was dealing with health issues, so she had some medical bills. And because of that health issue, she also knew she only had so many years to work and save for her retirement. Right? She knew because of the health, she couldn't work forever. She was realistic in that regards. And I said to her, what happens if Aunt Didi runs out of money? Well, then the whole family would be screwed. And she just kept enabling them. Right? Her one niece totaled her car about 3 times. And guess who foot the bill?
Wow.
Aunt Didi. But what she would do is whenever Aunt Didi got paid, it would go into one bank account, and she would save there, right? She might move some into savings. But whenever her family called and needed money, she would just send it. So she'd get her bank account, okay, 10,000, I can do a bathroom. And then the next day, it's gone. So it's very frustrating and stressful for her. So I'll give you some ideas of what we did. We created boundaries. Over Jen and Olivia, these boundaries. So we did the Stable Money Saver, set up different buckets for her. And one bucket was still for her family. But if she didn't have enough money in it, she would have to tell them no or not yet, or they would come to her with a plan, how they're going to pay it off. They had to be a lot more strategic. They had to find almost like a business plan. And now they use the money to travel together. So now she'll spend the money for a trip, and as long as you can get yourself to the place, you kind of have a free trip, which then she can enjoy it with them. So boundaries is really important. Boundaries with your schedule, right? Blocking things off so that you don't take every call. Boundaries when you're going to answer emails. Boundaries with your money. Literally separating money that you're using for family versus stuff that you're using for yourself. Right? I have a woman in our community, she just joined, and she's near retirement, and she's like, I know we just did everything for our boys, and now we basically have a mortgage of their student debt. And she's like, we never thought what were our consequences of our actions. She's like, I want them to be self-sufficient. They aren't. We're still helping them financially. We still have their debt. I'm like, well, now we need to start setting up boundaries and expectations of what's going to happen, and not cutting them off cold turkey, but letting them know this is what's going to happen over the course of the next few years. It's also why I always do free strategy sessions with clients' children, because I need to make sure that the parents feel secure weaning them off and the kids can get set up on the right financial footing so that they're not in the same situation as their parents, because that's the last thing the parents want. But also it just makes both sides feel much, much more secure and better about it. So I want you to go back to the dollar value for your time, and I want you to double it. So remember with Cheap Chip, we wrote down how much 1 hour of our time is worth. And then I want you to double it. And then double it again. And I don't want you to be freaked out by this. And I'm not saying that this is what you're going to charge. I want you to feel so good about this number after you've doubled it twice, that charging the lower amount, like, this is a no-brainer. I'm never going to be this affordable again. You should take this deal. I want you to have so much conviction behind your price that people, it's a no-brainer. And it then becomes a no-brainer to hire out, to delegate things when it makes sense in your business. And for people who are in the corporate world, to understand what is your dollar value so that you don't get stuck in a job. Just like this woman I was talking about with her two sons. She's like, I've been listening to you and I'm realizing, what is my dollar value? She retired early and she goes, people thought because I retired early that they could pay me anything and I'll just be happy to work. She's like, that's not the case. She's like, I'm realizing now I could have earned more money, and now she's starting to think that way. Yeah, I'm going to work for a few more years, but why do I have to settle for something less?
You know what? When we think that our service, and we identify with the value of our service, we know that we project. Okay. So if I believe I'm overpriced, then the person I'm talking to is going to believe I'm overpriced. If I believe I am 100% worth every penny and more, then they're going to perceive that. And it's been very interesting because I've given myself a raise a couple times in the last 2 years.
That's awesome.
And I have never come up against any resistance from anyone.
That's fantastic. Good. Right.
But I don't think I would have believed it until I really proved it to myself by experiencing that.
Yeah, but having conviction behind, not just confidence, conviction.
Right, exactly. And I find the only time I get pushback is when the person literally can't afford it at all. It's not like a question of it's a little too high. It's a question of it's not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah. Well, I'll even start off and say, listen, if you're looking for the best price, the lowest price, you don't need my service.
Right.
There you go.
Exactly. Which is why, like in my first phone call, I always go over what the price range is too. Exactly.
Right. Because when they figure out what's important to them, and yes, trust and concierge is more important than mail order, discounts, then we keep talking. Mm-hmm. But if a mail order discount is what they need, then they can just, let me not waste your time or mine.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Them. It's a great way to pre-qualify them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So
and then I found that I did.
Yeah.
And then I found what I did when all this started, that's when I designed my DIY course, because it's really for a completely different customer.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was able to refer them somewhere and still make a little bit of money off of it, but not spend any time on it at all.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect. Good. And I talk to women when they're coming up to retirement knowing, okay, if this is what my time's really worth, and yeah, I might be getting good money, but it's costing me my health, my physical health. I have high blood pressure. I can't work out because I'm too exhausted. I'm too stressed. I'm losing sleep. I'm losing hair, all these things. Then they start to value their time a lot more. Mm-hmm. So even if you aren't a business owner, this is just as important to do because you know what your worth is and what is your work taking out of you.
Right.
And is it worth that? And then also it helps stay away from distractions and get focused on where should you be looking with the jobs, researching what could you get paid in the same job at a different company, what's the next level job, what's the way to really align yourself with your ideal income as well. And people don't value free, as we said before. Right? My coach always says, when people pay, they pay attention. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I also think for Overgenerous Olivia's, there is a way to do givebacks, right? I know you guys give a ton of free information on your sites, on social media, on my blog. We give a ton of information. This is where why I love doing my Pink Fix packages, where I send, whether it's my book or it's just a pink journal or just an inspirational package for them. Because I'll send them to anybody who is in need, anybody who needs it, anybody that's helped me out. And I don't make money from it at all, but it's a way for me to still have a little Overgenerous Olivia in me, as a give back. And then my goal is to always over deliver. You both as well in the communities too. We can never get rid of Overgenerous Olivia, but it's a way for us to still be authentic to who we are, to give back, but people not rob us of our time and our energy and our money. And it gives them more value, right? If you pay to be even the $30 for a challenge, right? You pay $30, you're that much more committed than if it was free. right? If you pay $300, you probably be even more committed because you're going to want to get that return on your investment. And I'm going to want to make sure that you got your return on your investment. So I'm even more committed, right? Both sides are coming closer together. Okay, money type 4 is delusional Dan. So delusional Dan, higher the mountain the better. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to be president. I'm going to fix world hunger. I'm just kidding. But they dream big, they talk big, they act big. And I'm sure you can think of so many people in your world who are always have this talk. I'm going to do this. And 10 years later, they're in the same situation they were in or a worse situation, right? Because this is what usually happens. You dream big, you talk big, or you actually execute it. You act big. What I've noticed is sometimes we do have these really big dreams and goals, but it might not be in alignment with your overall vision. I'm going to give you an example with Joanne. But you think, this is a really cool dream. It'll be awesome if it happens. If not, right? If the universe delivers it to my doorstep, I'll do it. But if it takes extra stuff, I don't know if it's going to fit in or if it's just a distraction. So Joanne, she retired from corporate world. She was in IT, and she went to culinary school to become a baker. And for her, her dream was to always open up a bakery. So after culinary school, she worked at a bunch of different bakeries. Every year we would meet and we would put her through the goal plan to see, can she set up a bakery? Can she pay for it, the upfront costs, run it? And every year, for about 5 years, you can do it, Joanne, you can do it, you can do it. And then one year I finally said to her, is this what you really want? And she was like, for her, it just was kind of that next step, right? The next challenge. But she goes, the hours are horrible, right? You're there till night. You're there at 4 a.m. Sorry, just pop in the chat. I'll be right back. No problem, Chris.
Yeah.
Her legs, she's getting arthritis. It's a physical job. You're on your legs all day long. And the holidays are horrible, right? When you want to take more time off from work, you're inundated with so many orders to fill. She's like, it really might not be what I want. So she kind of found this nice, happy in-between where she does small weddings, she'll do events. She did our one event. She made these gorgeous cookies for it. And she's kind of find that happy medium. So she's gone back to the IT world. So now she has the best of both for her. But sometimes they just aren't in alignment with what you want, or your life changes, right? Now your priorities have shifted. So figuring out, why is there a lot of talk with little follow through? And how do we stop procrastinating? I will say you have to be somewhat of a delusional Dan to open your own business. We often think, well, somebody's going to want to buy our stuff. Somebody's going to want to work with me. Or even for me to write a book. That was pretty delusional. Who's going to want to read my book? You have to think that way if you're ever going to write a book or start a business or, do anything that's kind of out of the box. Okay. The biggest thing for a delusion or a dance is to have kind of that partner, a mentor, a coach, having an action plan, but also with somebody that's going to hold your hand at times, walk you through things, weed out the distractions. I can't tell you how many times I get text calls, emails, I have an idea, can I run it by you? Because it's a lot, usually it's a risky project or an idea. They just need somebody to bounce it off with and think it through, talk it through with. Getting clear on what it is you really want, or is it just a cool dream? Which is fine if it's a cool dream. Surround yourself with people who have done it or want to do it. This is one of the biggest things. This is why my best friends consist of a business coach, a money coach, and a financial advisor. We all are on the same path, trying to do the same things, or someone's already have done it, and now we're learning from them. And I'm sure everyone has seen it too, as they've gone through life, how relationships have changed. Dynamics have changed because you try to get more and more alignment with people who you can relate with, and people who are doing things that you want to do. Biggest thing is to chunk down those dreams into small day-to-day tasks, right? Chunking it down. So this is why I always say to people, I know your overall plan from A to Z. I know it all, right? Ellen, you could probably say the same thing. I know your playroom from A to Z. I know what products I need to get. I know what containers, blah, blah. I know the whole dream. But my client's job is just to know from A to B, and then to C, and then to D, and then to E. So it's not so overwhelming. I know when I start talking with people on the phone, they're like, I need to figure out my cash flow. I need to figure out savings. And then how do I even start investing? Then they just get so overwhelmed and blah. I don't even know. How do I pick a retirement account? What am I supposed to be doing? It's like, let's start small. And exactly what we're doing in the 30 days is just small steps that just keep building on each other, right? Why we've tied in accountability with all of our programs. It just helps all of us stay focused. And delusional Dan needs a little cheap chip to plan before they spend. Do a little research before they spend. Delusional Dans and cheap chips are a pretty lethal combination. They're very good for business owners. They have that, they're delusional, but they're not just gonna throw money at problems. Spend their salary, which is like, oh, here's a problem. This is my dad. I'm just gonna throw more and more money at this problem until it goes away. All right. The last one is Avoider Al. So Avoider Al, blindfold. I see this so much with clients when they go MIA on me, and there's usually a reason, right? They're avoiding a pain or a guilt. What causes you pain with your money? So even if you aren't Avoider Al, I want you to think of when are the moments that you feel the worst about your money, or there's a pain, right? For me, my biggest fear is letting down my whole family and wanting to make sure that the decisions I'm making, the decisions that I'm bringing to the table, the options, are going to help my family. I'm not taking on too much risk, that we're doing everything in alignment with what our goals are. What causes you pain with your money? You know, I hear debt. I hear not where you want to be, or not even knowing where you are compared to where you want to be. Low income, low savings. Today's task was tracking your income. And I hear so many women, well, this isn't the income that I want to be earning, so I avoid looking at it. I'm like, well, then how are we going to know what's working and how we can get you to that higher income? Or just making those tough questions. Maybe I need to leave this job because I'm severely underpaid. What are you avoiding? So what book was this in? But they're talking about procrastination, and we don't procrastinate necessarily because we want to. We do it because once we have, okay, I want to get this done, we research and then we get overstimulated, right? Google comes up with 1,000 different solutions. We're overstimulated. There's too many places of where to start, so now we're overwhelmed. We get disorganized because we don't know where to start. Now our commitment starts to falter. Overstimulated, we're inundated, we're overwhelmed, we're stressed, disorganized now. Everyone's chirping in your ear, you should do this, you should do that, and now the commitment starts to wane. So what's the solution? Biggest thing is the community groups, the accountability, and I think that's why a lot of women work with me, and I hear it. I love the commitment and the accountability. I love that you're pushing me. I love that you're asking, should I increase my savings? Forcing me to look at estate stuff. I don't want to think about my death, but forcing me to think about my estate stuff. Making a money date, right? Having a dedicated day to do a money task, right? For these 30 days, we're doing it every day, but setting up on your schedule. Okay, Sunday night, we review this. Monday morning, I do my business. All right, one day a month for retirement planning. Happy retirees have spent 5 hours a year, which isn't a ton of time, 5 hours a year doing retirement planning because they have something to retire to. They're not just running from a job that they hated or because they're exhausted. They actually have a plan that they're retiring to. Having an accountability buddy, which cannot be a friend or a spouse or somebody close to you. My mom would make a horrible accountability buddy. You should just stop working so much. You should just stop. Take a few days off. Take a week. month off. You deserve it. Right? The accountability buddy is somebody who is doing what you want to do, is striving to do what you want to do. Making it more of a game, right? I know, think about if you get stressed out over bringing in more income or paying off your debt. Now it becomes something that you dread. You're stressed by it, it's a burden on you. Instead of making it, okay, this is like a game. Kind of like what you were saying earlier, Evelyn, with your mom, like, this is an adventure, right? This is a game. This is a game show now. How can we pay off our debt quicker? How can we earn more money? How can we save? And just flipping your mindset around it. Setting attainable goals that you could do, not shooting for the stars each time, then you feel like a failure. And the best way is to just take action and get the results. And Chris, you kind of were talking about this before, like you changing your habits and you're seeing results, so that fueled your belief. Action first, you're going to see the beliefs build. Okay, ladies, I want to be very conscious of everyone's time, so
Yeah.
fly through those. But I want to take a moment to kind of pause and think, okay, what are your top money goals? And I want you to put a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to them? So you can go back to the goals that we wrote in the beginning.
Jess, for some reason, your volume has gone lower and Chris's has gotten louder.
Oh, I turned mine up so that I could hear her.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Here, how's that? Jessica, you're even softer to me now. So I just turned up my volume so I could hear you.
Is that better?
No.
Still very quiet.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Are you using wireless earphones?
No, I have a microphone.
Oh, okay. I wondered if your battery was losing charge.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like your mic is, like it suddenly cut out or something.
Yeah.
Because you were fine. And then suddenly it's like, wait, she's drifted off.
Now I can't hear you at all.
Okay, you can hear me now.
A little bit.
A little bit. Oh no, maybe I need a new mic. That's weird. All right. Can you hear me enough?
Yeah. If we both mute ourselves, Chris, I think then we'll be able to hear her better. Because
Okay,
I've
let's
got a
try
lot
it.
of background noise from you since you went higher.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's it, not you.
That's weird. Okay, so we're just gonna write down our commitment on our money goals on a scale of 1 to 10. And then I want you to write down 2 or 3 things that you're going to start doing right away after this call. I want you to have some tangible things. If you aren't sure, again, we can do a 15-minute call after this.
Jess, I just have a quick question. When you're talking about the bucket things, I've seen different programs of this before, and some specify like different bank accounts, some specify just different places. Like, what's your fave?
I have mine all in one spot. So like my business, I have 4 different bank accounts, but they're all in the same bank. And some say have one that's completely out of sight, out of mind. I think you need to know yourself. If you're pretty good at I'll give you an example. Some women, they're like constantly sending money back and forth and they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. I feel like you, Evelyn, when you stick to something, you're committed to it.
Right.
You don't have to worry about having such a boundary in between you and future money or tax money, things like that. Like if it's in that home, it's going to be there until I need it for that exact purpose. But then if you start to want to invest some of the money, well, then you might need a different type of account, right?
Okay.
Outside
Good.
of the
Thanks.
So yeah, I would say if you know yourself, some women I say you need to set up an account that you are not going to see or touch. Don't worry about it. Sometimes that one is with me, so they have that accountability, I guess. But for you, I get a sense that you probably don't need such a
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
And then for some people who aren't getting the help or support they need, give yourself a time frame. I'm going to try it on my own for this long. If it doesn't work or I run into the next issue, right? Because I want you to think of your plan as phases. We have phase 1, we have phase 2, phase 3. So maybe you're great with phase 1, and then phase 2 it's a little bit more complicated, brings your money to the next level. Then you might need help. All right, now we're gearing up for retirement. Now we're gearing up for more investing. Now it's getting a little bit more confusing and I need extra help. So giving yourself kind of a time frame or just a check-in with yourself, I think obviously with money, self-awareness is key, of when to then give yourself permission to reach out for help. Okay. And obviously my goal for everyone is to be able to breathe when they think of their money and to have breathing room in their budget, their cash flow, breathing room with their savings and stuff. And lastly, here is the link. So everyone, I would love to jump on a quick 15-minute call to work out any details you want to talk about, anything that this brought up, any questions, anything you want more information on. JessicaWeaver.setmore.com. We can talk just about you, your business, retirement, anything personal you want to, or just pick my brain. That's only to help you and really get you going on your next steps. All right? We have a few minutes. I have a stop at 1:30. Does anybody have any more questions? How was this?
It was
Very
good.
good.
It was helpful to get you focused,
I had heard some of this talk before, which laid some groundwork when you spoke at my pod meeting, but I didn't actually have the assessment. So if I had done this assessment back then and did it now, I know it would have been entirely different.
Yeah.
Entirely, just because, as we learn, our beliefs change along with the information that we gather, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've migrated a little bit too.
And I wanted to reword at least 50% of all of these statements, which is very common for me. I find it myself very difficult to assess with some of these somewhat standardized
Yes. I hear ya.
assessments.
The
I'm like,
verbiage.
well, the first phrase is good, but the second phrase needs a different word. I overthink.
Yeah. Good.
Anyway,
Are
no,
you both going to be on the call tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
that is my plan. That is